Most people think success is something they have to reach, something that depends on luck, timing, or who they are, or that it is only reserved for certain people. That's not true. Success is always happening. There is no such thing as not succeeding. The only question is, in what direction? And that becomes dangerous, because the moment you see it, you lose the ability to pretend this is not your responsibility. Chapter 1. You are never not successful. You don't have a success problem. You have a direction problem. Right now, your life is working, not randomly, not against you. It is working exactly in the direction your actions, your focus, and your decisions are pointing. And that's the part most people don't want to see, because it removes something very comfortable: distance. You can no longer say, "I'm trying," because what you're doing is already working, just not in the direction you want. And if you're honest, you can see it in your habits, in your thoughts, in what you repeat every day. You are not stuck, you are consistent. Consistency is not something you turn on. It is something that is already there. The only question is, in which direction it is applied, just not where you thought you would be. Chapter 2. What success actually is. In structured Japanese thinking, there is no concept of passive existence. Action is always happening. Direction is always active, which means something is always being produced. The word itself makes it obvious. Success. To succeed. To let something happen. This is not motivation, this is mechanics. If you repeatedly act in a certain way, something will grow, always. The system does not pause. The system does not ask what you want. It only responds to what you repeat. This is why two people can do completely different things, and both become successful. One becomes successful at progress, the other becomes successful at staying exactly where they are, not by intention, but by repetition. And here's the uncomfortable part. The system treats both equally. It doesn't reward effort. It reinforces direction. And repetition is never neutral. It is not just building behavior, it is building results, even if you don't notice it yet. Chapter 3. You don't know what you want. Most people believe they know what they want, but if you ask them to define it clearly, something happens. They hesitate, they become vague, or they start talking about what they don't want. I don't want stress. I don't want this life. I don't want to feel like this. That is not direction. That is avoidance. And avoidance does not create movement. It creates loops, because your attention is locked on what should disappear, and whatever you focus on expands. Not because of belief, but because of repetition. So while people think they are trying to change their lives, they are repeating the same structure every day, strengthening it and stabilizing it. And here's the part most people miss. Your mind does not separate between what you want and what you repeat. It only tracks frequency. So if you think about what you don't want more often than what you do want, that becomes your direction, and direction always wins. You don't repeat thoughts. You repeat outcomes. You don't drift into a different life. You repeat your way into it, step by step, without realizing it. Chapter 4. Direction is decision. Direction is not something you adjust. Direction is something you decide. Most people never make that decision clearly. They move forward, but leave space to stop. They try, but stay ready to retreat. They act, but keep doubt active. And that breaks everything, because movement without direction does not accumulate. It cancels itself out. Imagine choosing a city. You know exactly where it is. You start walking. Now something important happens. You don't need motivation. You don't need confidence. You don't even need to feel ready. You only need one thing: direction. Some days you walk fast, some days slow, some days you stop, but you don't turn around. And that's the difference. Most people don't fail because they can't get there. They fail because they keep interrupting direction. You don't need to believe you will arrive. You only need to stop interrupting the path. Interruption is the only real enemy here. Not difficulty, not time, not complexity. Only interruption resets everything. Chapter 5. Why people stop right before it works. Most people don't fail far away from success. They stop close to it. Closer than they think. Closer than they will ever know. Because right before something works, it becomes unclear. Results are not visible yet. Effort feels disconnected. Doubt increases. And in that moment, something dangerous happens. They interpret that feeling as truth. This isn't working. But that's not reality. That's perception, and perception is unstable. Direction is not. So they slow down, they stop, they turn around. Not because it didn't work, but because they didn't stay long enough to see it. And here is the part that hits. You've probably done this before, more than once. And every time you stopped, you didn't just pause. You trained yourself to stop again. Chapter 6. The real fear. You're not afraid that it won't work. You're afraid that it might. Because if it works, everything changes. Not outside, inside. You lose your position. You lose the version of yourself that can step back, delay, explain, justify. You don't get to say, maybe later. You don't get to say, I'm still figuring it out. You don't get to stay the same. And that's the part you feel, even if you don't say it. Because success is not just gaining something, it is losing the version of you that kept repeating the same result. And most people don't fight failure. They protect that identity quietly, consistently, without noticing. Because the moment you move forward without interruption, you are no longer the same person who used to stop. And that's irreversible. Because once you move differently, you see differently, and you cannot go back to not seeing. Chapter 7. You are the mechanism. There is no external force deciding this, no hidden group, no special permission. There is only direction and continuation. If you know exactly what you want, and you move toward it, step by step, again and again, you will arrive. Not because you hope, but because you allow it. Success is not something you reach, it's something you let happen. And this is where everything becomes simple. Not easy, simple. Because once direction is clear, you are no longer deciding if it works. You are deciding if you stop. And continuation is not dramatic. It is quiet, almost invisible, but extremely powerful. There are only 3 questions that matter. The first, are you actually moving in one clear direction, or are you adjusting it to stay comfortable? The second, is your energy organized around what you want to create, or around what you want to avoid? And the third, what are you willing to let happen, starting now?